Hello, everyone. We are starting the presentation now. We would like to thank Dr. Sharma for coming and presenting to us today. We have Dr. Kaiser here, chair of the department, going to present his biography.
Thank you, Mackenzie. I would like to thank the ones that is in the room and the others that is in the Zoom about this FMRI webinar. Is the last one that we have in November, and I would like to thank the IT FAU students after that put this together. Dr. Shushant Sharma is a research scientist in the Multi-Resolution Modeling Program in Texas A&M Transportation Institute. It's our honor that we have him here as an expert in freight, and also we are working together the last 3-4 years with the various TRB committees, events, workshops, and so on. He has expertise in network modeling, travel demand modeling, freight planning, modeling simulations, big data analysis, and traffic operations. Over the last 15 years, he has led or worked on many research and consulting projects sponsored by Federal Highway, NCCRP, SARP, 2, UTC, University Transportation Centers projects, and state DOTs. Dr. Sharma has published a book chapter, 46 peer-reviewed journal publications, and has also conference publications as well. Of course, 24 technical research reports on topics such as freight planning, safety, real-time traffic operations, modeling, and travel forecasting. Dr. Sharma, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Angelos. Thank you, IPE chapter. Thank you, Freight Mobility Research Institute, and all the people who are here and who are online as well. As said, my topic today is on modeling emerging freight planning problems, and most importantly, effectively communicating results to stakeholders and decision makers. When I was presenting this, when I was preparing for this presentation, I had a couple of things in my mind, and this is the most important thing which is going on more and more. I realized all of us work in technical aspects of things, but struggle with communicating those results to decision makers. So I wanted to put two things across. One, research, why research is important. So we know research starts with a question. And there is no learning without a question, and posing a question requires a doubt. So whenever you have a doubt, you have any doubt, stop and ask a question. It can be any research question. You may be one step near to a new research problem which has never been investigated. So do not self-reject the doubts in your mind. Go ask those. The second one is we have this terrible struggle to try to explain things to people who have no reason to want to know. This is another quote by Richard Feynman, and this is why it's there, because we will, and you all students and everybody will deal with this at some point in your life where the person in front of you don't have enough motivation or time to understand your research ideas or even what you find out. So these are things you really need to balance as you go about doing research. So the first one is most important one, where sometimes we are not able to distinguish, is which one is the right problem. Like you need to know how to identify the right problem to study. So what I have put down here is something is more of a personal approach towards any research. And I borrowed these from, there's already an existing checklist on the quality of articles in operation research, but basically this source can apply to any research. So if you're doing any research, you have lots of things that you need to look into. And the first one is the research question itself. Is this research question motivated by any needs or potential benefits of the results? What's the motivation behind it? Then second, you look at, is this an internal, that is a scientific subject we are trying to study, or is it external? Are you trying to solve a problem which is out there in the practice, which nobody has solved it, or this comes from external problems. Now, the second one you need to look at is the audience. Audience is most important, and is there interest in that research question? Like, what kind of audience is there? Is it like within the scientific community who understands the details of the things, or is this outside world who just understand at the layman level? The third question is originality. Originality is one of the key ingredients because first it defines if you're trying to do something new and unique and creative, that will motivate you by itself. But sometimes you have a problem in hand, which is a very interesting research question. You have an audience for it, but then it's an established kind. And so you have an uphill task to first make sure that you do a thorough literature review. You make sure everything what you are thinking in terms of research has been not investigated before, even if it has been investigated not from your angle, and you work on it. So originality can be double-edged sword. You have to think about it, how original you want to go about it, and it's important to be original and unique, as well as understand some problems are very well established. They're out there. We have found solutions, but they may not be the optimal solutions for us. The last one is consequences. How significant is the influence and usefulness of the work? So is this applicable only to few folks around me? There are only very minor number of people, or is this applicable to the whole world? It opens up the significance of your research to the whole world. So that's 4 things you should look into any research problem you are trying to study. And as in this slide or this page, as a student and researcher, we focus so much on the technical aspects. Sometimes we get bogged down. Sometimes it's a last-minute assignment, that we forget the success of any research or any project or implementation of that project lies in how we communicate the results to decision makers or stakeholders. And I think that is unfortunately in academia still a problem. Communication is a key that is unfortunately overlooked in academia, and this whole presentation, when I was developing it, is geared towards that we need to take our work we have done and try to communicate that properly and in a manner that the decision makers or stakeholders can quickly understand. So we have to put ourselves in their shoe. So based on this, I'm going to discuss about 3 case studies. So you can see after background, we have 3 case studies here. And these are more of a personal stories from my side, like what are the questions I try to work on and how I'm trying to either communicate or how I communicated the results, even though they were kind of not what the stakeholder or decision maker wanted. Like, sometimes you end up with the solutions which are not the right answer for the person on the other side. So that's what I'm going to talk about. The first case study is about converting a diamond interchange into single point urban interchange. So have you heard of single point urban interchange ever? So yeah, so it's important, right? You know what diamond interchange is, right? Have you seen those around? Have you driven any of those?
Glades is getting converted into a diverging diamond.
It's the one nearby? Okay, yes. Very good. So that's a good story there. So I'm going to go through one diamond interchange here, where this is an example. This is a major road. This is a minor road, and this is it's not at grade. So these are one over the above. And if you want to go from let's say you want to go on this major road and turn west. So you're going north, so you have to go all the way on a diamond interchange and then turn west. This is how you cross. So yeah, you have to go through the signal and you traverse the whole road. Now that's the same thing you have to do if you're turning left all throughout the diamond interchange. It's a problem because it's not very convenient for road users. What happens is there are solutions to that. Since 1975 or later on, there came single point urban interchange, which was designed such that a driver who wants to go north, or basically who's going north and wants to go west, can just take this route, can go through this and directly enter the minor route. So basically what it is reducing the time it takes to take a left turn and get to your own destination. So all the left turns are optimized in that sense. What else is going on here is you will see that this single point urban interchange has a signal in between. So there's not enough, uh, there's only few locations where their traffic is meeting. The second is you're freeing up all the real estate around this area. The single point urban interchange, the way we characterize it and the way we talk about it is it has a narrow right of way. So it doesn't need a lots of area around it. So we don't need a lot of right of way. It has a high construction cost because remember, you're going to build a bridge where all the traffic will meet and then they're going to go through a signal. It has a greater capacity than diamond interchange. So that's the good beauty of it. It can move more traffic through it. And it is suited for urban areas where there's a restricted right of way, like where there are a lot of buildings around and you want to go fast. So there are a lot of operational advantages for vehicle making left turn fast. The right turn movements are typically free flow. So you will see, if you want to make a right turn here, you have to go all the way here. Whereas in this case, it's a free flow movement. Then in between, there is a signal and which has a three-phase traffic signal operations. So the story is like this. So the project which came to us was, hey, how about we already have this development around this area where the diamond interchanges. How about we convert it into single point urban interchange? And the reason they wanted to do this was because this is the area where the diamond interchange is. There was a lot of development going on, and there was some real estate available here. So there's a discussion going on between some decision makers at the higher level in the city, and they wanted this land to be freed so that they can derive more benefit out of it, as well as the state DOT had a nearby road, so they will be impacted there. So state DOT and city were trying to understand whether we should build one single point urban interchange. One of the motivation here was there's a long queue in the evening rush hour, and this is like 3,800 feet, which is like 200 cars, and there are 3 lanes, so 600 cars, long traffic jam in the evening or rush hour. So you will used to have those issues related to congestion. We wanted to get rid of all this, and for doing that, there were 2 hypotheses. One was, hey, how about we develop a single point urban interchange at this location that will solve the congestion problem? We're pretty sure it will solve the congestion problem. That was one of the hypotheses. The second was, this we will also provide more real estate for commercial development. So these are the 2 ideas which were there before we got into it. Now, you may have been in this situation. If you are not, at some point in your career, when you work in the real world, you'll realize that there's always a conflicting situation where the client or the person you're talking to wants something, but that's not the same thing that your models or anything is telling you. So what we did to study this one for single point urban interchange was develop simulation models, and we studied it. And after doing that study, we realized it's not making total sense. It's not turning out that it's going to improve the situation. In fact, it may make it worse. So, so what do you do in that situation is now you take your typical charts and graphs and everything we do in simulation and show them, hey, this is the total system travel time, or this is the delay, or this is the queue you will see, and the numbers and all that. It wasn't making any sense. Like this went back and forth for a couple of years, then until we reached a point where we really took the simulation models to them and we showed them this picture, okay? So we showed them this picture, but that will not cut for them. Like these are all results. We kept on talking about these, but this doesn't make sense. So what you need to do in those cases sometimes is they say, one, instead of one picture, if you can take, one video or a picture and show them, they will be able to understand where you're coming from. And we showed them the simulation here, and just in a second, I just wanted to show the main part of it. But what we wanted to show them is this traffic coming on their single, there is one of the connector, and then there's a traffic which is there, and we showed them this one video, and they started to realize what we are talking about. Even the graphs, the charts, nothing could communicate until they saw this, that, oh, so the traffic, which is already bad on this particular road, is gonna go get bad. And more and more. And then also it congests the signal. So the signal won't even work properly. So, as we went about this research, what we learned was that even though the problem could have been communicated like just by seeing, we knew that this may get worse. We have to do the modeling, do some of the practical modeling, collect the data, and make sure it's there. But even if you do that, you have to go a little bit more than just showing those charts and graphs and numbers, then show them visuals so that they understand the problem is beyond it. And why the problem was a little bit more difficult here is you see these two locations where before diamond interchange, these two arrows are pointing out how the traffic used to move. Some of the traffic used to get split here and then come this way, and half of traffic used to come. Now we are bringing all the traffic on the same one interchange, and that's creating a congestion. So, and this was also a location where a lot of freight traffic is moving around. So you can't make a freight traffic go through this, a lot of trucks going through this. So that was one of the study which showed, okay, how you can convince the stakeholders or decision makers sometimes by just using one technique versus another, rather than, like what our typical way of explaining things is taking the bar charts and graphs and showing them, and instead of that, go this way. Now, second study which I would like to discuss briefly, and it's quickly because we recently did this. This is where I was trying this ArcGIS story map, because what is more important is for your stakeholders to understand is they need to see the story behind the picture. They don't know everything what you know. We get fixated with some things which we have learned, but they don't even know the bigger picture or smaller picture. They need some details there. So we tried something interesting here in this study, which was about truck traffic issues, truck parking issues in Texas-Mexico border port of entry. And this is an ongoing joint effort. Right now, this is just exploration of the problem. But what I wanted to talk about is, there are different ways of presenting, and using ArcGIS story map is one of those. So the U.S.-Mexico border is where there are a lot of commerce happening and a lot of commercial vehicle cross. So if I'm showing you this is the city of El Paso in Texas. And so here we are all the way. And there are two bridges, which is where the commercial traffic crosses from. One is called Bridge of the Americas. There are like 6 lanes for trucks. Then there is another bridge where there are 8 lanes for trucks. So these are two locations where a lot of truck movement happens between US and Mexico. So you see a lot of commercial vehicles that come. And the question was, can we understand the parking issues in this region using the probe data? So what we found out from a probe data, which is GPS data basically, is we looked at the location where it's called vehicle class 3, basically the semis are parking for more than 15 minutes. So we got the data points. So that we saw that there's enough data points for only 1 month. So there's enough information for us. And the next question we had is like, hey, are these trucks parking in residential areas? What's going on there? So one way to address it is to develop maps. And the way we want to do it is Now you're looking at a map which is a swipe graphic. So on the left side, you have all these agriculture, industrial, commercial, industrial, as well as the residential area. And you swipe it and you see those. And on the right side, you have a mean parking time. So the beauty of RGA story map is like if you open this on your phone, you will be able to do the same things like I am doing in the screen. So you will be able to see the mean parking time of these trucks and overlapped on the residential, on the land use. So if somebody has a question, hey, what's going on in this region, this commercial region over here? So we see there's a parking, but that's not long. It's just a mean parking time of 2 hours. They're not parking for a long time. And same. This is another example of the same, but here we are looking at how many trucks parked there. So how many probe data points are there? So basically, you're looking at numbers instead of average of parking time. So you're looking at number of trucks parked. So that's another example of presenting information in a way that a user or decision maker can use, and then more of it. Then the question was, how can a state DOT use these results? You know, what are they interested in? They are interested in their own roads, how they're being used. So we looked at the truck parking map. So basically, what we converted it is looked at the density of truck parking here. So basically, wherever it's red and yellow, it's a lot of trucks are parking over there. So this is I-10 corridor, like your I-95 here. So and all the way we see different densities of truck parking. So when you see these, you realize, oh, there's a lot of truck parking going on. What's there? You can overlay these information like this. So this is the same spot we saw red and yellow over here, where we can see what's going on. This is telling you the density of parking, but what it is, it's 3 parking stations nearby. It's a Flying J travel center, travel stop, and there's another travel center here. So a lot of trucks are parking here. So we got another information here, which is difficult to communicate where the trucks are parking, what are those land areas look like, and how we can map that. So we are trying to communicate here that story using ArcGIS story map. The benefit of this is again the same one. When anybody who receives this kind of ArcGIS story map instead of a PDF or a presentation, they focus on the content which is very relevant to them, and they're able to interact with whatever you have submitted. So that helps a lot. Now this is the third case study, which is analyzing strategies for separating trucks and cars. So this was a study on truck-only lanes. And this was in Dallas-Fort Worth metro area. We were trying to, one of the questions which was there is there's a very busy corridor I-20 with a high traffic numbers in terms of truck traffic. And they go through a lot of bottlenecks while traveling from Dallas to Fort Worth. These are 2 cities. I'm gonna zoom out a little bit between Dallas and Fort Worth. So this is the I-20 corridor. And there are lots of choking points here, like for freight traffic. So bottlenecks, and there are a lot of new interchanges and all. So this 32-mile corridor was supposed to be, the question was, can we convert the whole 32-mile corridor into a truck-only lane, on which will be a separate lane either on the right side or on the left side? The second question we had was, there were different locations within this corridor where there was either a capacity issues due to lane drops, there were grade issues, and there were some highways. There are a lot of highways that were connecting and creating a lot of issues there. The second one, we wanted to convert the whole corridor into 32-mile corridor into a truck-only lanes. Then we wanted to study, if not, at least focus on those freight bottlenecks and convert them into truck only lanes. So there were three segments we were studying here. So this is one segment where there is a lane drop. So all of a sudden the traffic comes from here where like you have 6 lanes of road. All of a sudden that converts into 5, then it goes to 4, and all of a sudden it's just 3 lanes or 2 lanes left. That was the first part. The second one was studying a roadway grade issues. The roadway grade here was like 4% to 6%. It was very steep for truck traffic. So much steep that it creates a kind of a barrier for the traffic which is behind it, because it's slowly accelerating. The trucks are slowly accelerating, and the traffic behind will slowly accelerate. So it reduces the speed. On the other side, where there's a the grade goes negative, we see acceleration issues. A lot of trucks are accelerating behind them. There's a lot of acceleration of other trucks. So that was the second segment, and the third one was the weaving issues related to trucks. So a lot of truck traffic was weaving. And the hypothesis of this study was, can we expect a high travel time savings and lesser crashes with truck-only lanes that separate cars and trucks? And will truck-only lanes even benefit for smaller sections? So these are the two things we are trying to understand here. For this, what we did, and this is the whole Dallas-Fort Worth metro region area. So you're seeing a network, all the roads in that area. So this is like 8-county network. We converted into something called a multi-resolution model. So multi-resolution model is something where you can, like you do in Google, zoom in, zoom out. So we have the information. We're going to run the whole model for the whole city, but we can get to the specifics of each and every road network or road. So to do that, what we do is first we have to calibrate our model. So this is just an example of how we calibrated our model based on the arterial roads and all that. We ran the traffic network model, calibrated the whole model based on changes in the network. So why we needed to do that? If, as I said, the 32-mile segment, if you make a truck-only lane, it will also get more traffic into it. You need to understand what happens to the whole city network, not only like one road you're trying to study. That's why you need to go a little bit deeper there. And that's the model we developed. And when we ran the model, and this is for the whole 32-mile model, the results were something like this. There was some benefits in each direction. You know, like what you're seeing here is the whole corridor and how these are like every 4 a.m., 8 a.m. results, and basically what's going on in the truck-only lane and the general purpose lane. GP is general purpose lane, and the main lane. So what we are trying to show here is, there are some benefits, trucks, and there are some benefits to the cars or private vehicles which are traveling on the general purpose lanes and all. So we found so many results related to this. We also saw that how many trucks will switch from general purpose lanes to truck only lanes. We saw like there is a good amount of trucks in the day that will switch, and this was like the total was like 20% of the traffic trucks will switch if there is a dedicated truck only lane on this corridor. Another thing which we saw was a travel time variability. What it means is, since there is a truck only lanes, the truck traffic will not experience the changes in the travel time. It's the other traffic which will also benefit because of that. The truck traffic was, before you build a lane, the overall travel time was like 40 minutes. It reduced to 25 minutes for the truck and 33 to 42 minutes for the general purpose lane. So there was a benefit because now it's a reliable route for trucks. So it's like a 32-mile corridor where they are driving on their own and they exactly know how much time it will take. That was the benefit of it. Then we moved into specific segments we were studying. One of the segments we were studying where there was a lane drop. Looked at it, we did the simulations. The results looked good. The simulation model showed this is a location where we're studying. This is what is going on right now there. And this is an example of the simulation. What we saw with the truck only lane at that location, there's an average travel time benefit of 60%, a very good benefit in terms of speed as well as the travel time, if there is a truck only lane in this location. So this looked like a good location for developing a truck only lane. And there was another small segment where we had grade issues. You see this traffic over here, there's a car going behind these trucks and they're slowly accelerating. And this, if you look from a Google image or Google Earth, you'll see this is a daily occurrence. This example is where there is a climbing lane, which is a truck only lane, but with a higher grades, and it's built for only trucks. So it doesn't interact, the car and the trucks don't interact in this location. So these climbing lanes were, if they are built, what will happen? So we saw that there is some benefit to it, a marginal benefit that can be produced by developing a climbing lane, but it was just marginal during a particular rush hour. It wasn't like, you build a climbing lane and it's going to be very good. Now, another question which we had during this is crash. Like there's a lot of crashes which happen in this location. So we looked at different type of crashes and just developed a map of what kind of crashes are happening in the location where there's a higher grade. So you see this, where there are a lot of crashes happening in each direction, and try to make sense out of savings if there is a truck only lane in this whole area. So there was some economical benefits over there. So assumption was that it will reduce some crashes, and we came up with some numbers there in terms of $1 million, how much saving will be there. But eventually, what we wanted to communicate here was, you can build a truck only lane, but the benefits which are being derived are not as much as we would expect them to be in terms of crashes and in terms of travel time savings. So another example of how different information can be communicated differently to the users. And with that, I think I would want to go into the conclusion. And the first conclusion I have developed is basically, first, you need to look at your research question and present the findings in the most simple and effective way. So that anybody who wants to even read, rather than reading a full-blown report, they just look at it quickly on wherever they are and then can derive out of it. The second is simplicity is the key. Work with the law of reduction. Try to ask, like every time you do something, try to ask, is this detail important? Does it need to even go there? So those help you minimize the information you want to communicate. Fancier models and tools, although they are good, they do not sell well. The models which sell well are the ones which are relatable, which are easy to understand, and they stick in a long-term memory. Like you remember that, okay, this is what I found out. So there's a difference between, as we say, that you get fixated with numbers, like there's a 10.433% increase, all that, in real world, it doesn't matter. 10% is good enough for some issues, even if it's a complex issue. And work on problems that you identify, which kind of spark joy or have a curiosity built into it, that always helps in your research, because that's something which helps you even go through, even if the times are tough and it's near the deadline, you'll find something which will help you intellectually and help others as well. So that's kind of it from my side. These are a couple of research, like the details of this research, which we discussed today, has been accepted for TRB, and you can hear from me at TRB if you're visiting. But they will be in publication very soon. These are the 3 papers we have based on this research. I think with that, I will stop. I'll open it up for any questions here, and help you if you need to learn anything about this.
Great. Thank you so much. Those of you online, if you could type in your questions into the chat box, we'll adjust those accordingly. But does anyone in person have any questions right now? What simulation model did you use to run this?
So when you use multi-resolution model, we use Dynasty, which is DTA model, Dynamic Traffic Assignment Model.
Is from Dynaswar?
Dynasty.
Yeah, is coming from Mamasani software?
No, it comes
Dynaswar?
from, no, it comes from that lineage. It lineage is same.
Okay.
Yes. So what it does is it creates the whole dynamic traffic assignment for the whole network.
Mhm.
But then we cut that network into it. And that's where I said multi-resolution, that we cut that network and then we get the outputs from there and then we use it in a VISIM.
Okay.
So you use Dynasty at the whole level and then you go smaller at the VISIM level to look at those specific corridors.
So the dynasty called Dynasty now, is more mesoscopic level.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so we are looking from the planning point of view. When they are going down to the detail, I mean, particular corridor, particular intersection, they can use VISIM.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. So information which is the reason we have to do it, as I said, if you do anything in a bigger network, any changes made to a bigger network will impact the whole network. It's not, it doesn't stay there.
Mhm.
So you want to understand what's going on, and then you want that output to be put into your simulation models, not what you see today,
Mhm.
but also in the future.
Then what are the benefits of using the PTV VISM for microsimulation other than other softwares used? Personally, like out
Yeah,
of your
so-
experience.
Yeah, there's not much difference between these softwares. VISIM works good because it's easy to understand and relatable to lots of practitioners
Mhm.
and also to decision makers. Like
Mhm.
they understand VISIM, they have some kind of a trust over the years.
Mhm.
It's been around for a long time and it has improved relatively very well.
Mhm.
So that's why it's used. If you use a different simulation model, I don't think that there's going to be many questions about it, but it's the relatability, which is a trust it has built over the years, is helpful.
Thank you.
You have, I think, one in the,
Jasmine, could you check the questions?
There's no questions. They're just saying that it was a good presentation.
okay.
They're saying thank you for the
Okay,
presentation.
yeah, great.
Did you see this type of research can be applicable to other states or, I mean, the track lanes can be applicable to other states?
Yes, some of the things can directly be applicable to other states. For example, right now there's some research we are doing. Example, truck only lanes is very much possible that it's been done in Georgia. They have studied it very well in Atlanta, and it can be it is transferable. Some of the research is transferable, but then there are other research which is like there are something called frontage roads, which are roads which are just next to the interstates run across, and this is very specific to Texas. We do some research on those frontage roads, which may not be transferable, but it's very interesting research in terms of what kind of a lane should be there. It's called auxiliary lanes on the frontage roads and all that for trucks. And it's a research which is quite specific to Texas, but it can, if there is something similar, it can be transferred. So there are different variety of things. But this truck only lanes research, yes, it can be.
Can you connect this type of work with, I'm sorry, maybe you mentioned something earlier, I had to step down for 10 minutes, but can this work can be connected to the truck parking issues?
Yes, there was a presentation, the case study 2, which we are right now exploring, and Nicole is leading that part, where we are looking at INRIX data and studying the truck parking issues. So it's already, and I was showing that was the cool part about it, because the question was,
Yeah, I missed the case study.
yeah, can you look at the question was more about where are these truck parking, or where is the parking going on? And we looked at this mean parking time graphs, and this is just from 1 month of data, like nothing much. But what we did is we developed the land use maps there, and so we looked at the land use maps. So you see these all graphic, and then you lay the truck parking. So on the right side, you have like trucks are parking for 12 hours at some location. Let's say here it is. And you look at what kind of land use is there. So it's not a proper land used area. So it's not derived, but we're doing something this like this. If
Okay.
you're looking at truck parking issues, use the probe data and trying to create some tools which state.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, thank you.
I have a question. I don't know if you mentioned it because I came really late.
Yeah, that's fine.
What software are you using for the maps? Is that ArcMap or?
These are ArcGIS story
ArcGIS.
maps, and I just wanted to demonstrate this to you and everybody wherever I'm going. Is the time of those static documents is almost coming to an end. We need something where we can do this, and this doesn't take time. These are swipe graphics. You just if you use ArcGIS, and if you have used in this is just a shapefile. There's one shapefile on this side, there's another shapefile on this side, and you just upload those, and it automatically converts into this. So it doesn't take anything. So I will say go check out story maps on ArcGIS.
Yeah.
And they're very cool. Like this has been around since 2017, 18. It's not a new thing. It's just that it's not used as much in transportation as we would like to, and as much I think it should be provided to our sponsors. Actually, our sponsors should receive reports like this,
Yes.
so they can read quickly and they can do things while they're reading. And wherever, like Mackenzie experienced that. I didn't give her a slide. I just gave her a link, and she clicked on it, and it started here. Now you can read wherever you are and do stuff with it. And there's pretty much, this is not the only coolest thing. You can do much more cooler things with this. So yeah, so ArcGIS is the answer to your question. Story maps. They have some dashboards as well, the new kind of dashboards where you can do more stuff.
Thank you. Yeah, because for one of my projects, I had like 5 different maps.
Yeah.
And I'm like, even going through the presentation in my head, I'm like, if I'm the one looking at this, it's very confusing. I spent like all this time with the orientation to make sure it's exactly the same, so that people can look like, oh, okay, this place changed here,
Yeah.
But that is just much more simpler because it's layered, and you just move it back and forth.
Yeah.
So that's cool.
Yeah. So it's very, frankly, it will take you less time
Yeah.
compared to developing a slide than doing this.
Are the truck lanes medians? Or if they're not, how do you prevent other cars due to human behavior going in those truck lanes?
Yes, that's a very good question, Mackenzie. So here there was one assumption. We had studied 2 kind of truck lanes, one on the extreme right side, one on the extreme left side. The left side has to, a truck lane has to interact with incoming and outgoing traffic. What we
Yeah.
found was the extreme right side doesn't need to, because they already know they're gonna go straight throughout. They have some kind of beacons or some kind of a median there, which helps them go through that. So they're not talking to the car traffic at all. So they're just going that way. The whole idea about this research was, how do we separate the cars and the trucks in long term? So yes, we did. But we found for wherever there's an interaction and the human behavior involved, the benefit of truck only lanes go very low. And I think that's the biggest issue which we face. It depends on side to side, but that's going to be enough of a challenge by itself. And these are very expensive, by the way, truck only lanes. So that's another thing.
Thank you.
Any other question from the room? Anything?
Anything from online?
Yeah.
One more thought would be, again, because I'm late, I don't know if you spoke on this, but as the market moves forward with autonomous vehicles, has the conversation started about, vehicle platooning and how that may help, instead of just one dedicated lane for trucks? It's like they all kind of communicate with one another to minimize, the gaps and
Yeah.
platoon better.
Yeah. So when we were assessing the truck only lanes, one of the possible application was autonomous trucks, like with, it makes sense for them, like they are the trucks which don't want to interact with traffic anyways, and that will help. So yes, there is a lot of conversation going on, and also from different angles. For example, payment. So trucks cause more damage to the pavement, right? So they're carrying heavy load. So that's why these truck only lanes have to have a specific kind of payments, thick payments and type. So they are looking at that. They're also looking at rest areas, like trucks have to access the rest area. They have to park somewhere. So those old problems are building up. But at the same time, when you look at the truck only lanes, the problems are being studied from there. And I think there will be, at some point, we will see those practical truck only lanes around different states working out well, because with the rise of e-commerce, truck
Yeah.
traffic has increased.
Yeah.
And what has happened with COVID is a lot of people have realized the value of freight, like movement of freight, right? That was a different one. So before there's a perception which is like, hey, we don't want trucks on our lanes. That was there, but now people are getting up. Okay, they can be on separate lanes because I need my goods. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's there.
It's almost as if it's like rail, right? But
Yeah.
rail is more expensive
Yeah.
because you have to lay down the steel and everything as opposed to just making a thicker pavement.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I'm sure it's expensive, right? But if someone were to compare, I guess, rail with one dedicated lane for trucks,
Yeah.
I think that would be a cheaper option then.
Yes, exactly.
In terms of even planning too, because usually everything where there's an interstate, that plan is already zoned for that, so you could just increase the lanes.
Yes, and I think that's what one of the city like that got motivated here was based on that. You know, what if we have this lane? You know, what like there's already so many bottlenecks here. What if we just build one lane and get done with it? And it appeared that it's easy to say it's gonna take a lot of things. If you have a separate lane all throughout the corridor, that will work better, but it will be costly. And right now, it doesn't justify the travel time savings and the crash savings. Like so, still high cost.
Still an interesting subject, though. I think moving forward at some point, it would have to be implemented, like you said. Just a
Yes.
matter of demand, you know?
Yeah.
Because I mean, even on my way over here, there was a whole bunch of trucks on the lanes, you know? I was like boxed in. I was doing 30 miles an hour on I-95.
Yeah.
So I think at some point, this will be a reality. But what do I know?
Right, and it does something interesting to the network which we didn't even share. But you know, like when I said, like you know, you make changes to 132-mile corridor in a bigger city, something else will also happen. You'll see a lot of other trucks which will come on that road. So yeah, it has some kind of negative externalities
Yeah.
as well, which may or may not be that bad, you know, for the whole city.
Okay, thank you.
One more question.
Yeah, go ahead.
So for the second part of your title for this presentation, it's like effectively communicating this to
Yes.
stakeholders. Have you seen a change in response to presenting like this way with like the
Yes. So
the
this
links
is the base
instead of the
story.
PowerPoints?
Yeah. So yes, I have seen one of the example. The first one which I gave was, you know, you've been talking back and forth about that study that they want to build a SPUI and all that,
Mhm.
and there's a conversation going on. But what it like we realize it's important that decision makers also understand that sometimes stories can't be communicated in terms of graphs and all. So you
Mhm.
just show them the picture, what's going on in actuality, and that really helps. So with this also, story maps, I found that it's more interesting because the way a lot of people who have seen these have reacted,
Mhm.
they liked it. They like the part of it is about interaction. You know, there's always a question in the mind of a decision maker, but then they don't have tools. Now they have tool, like you saw the swipe graphic, you know, like at least see around, you have some interest to read even like those things. You don't need to read the whole report. Just take a link, read it on your phone while you're going. And we don't want to put a lot of content. This is what it is.
Mhm.
So if there is a difference, yes.
Especially with nowadays, the younger generations,
Yeah.
their attention span is quite short. So this being so interactive, I was in it
Yeah.
the entire time. I felt like I was included in the conversation because you're clicking here, clicking there. So I felt like even presenting your information to younger
Yes.
students, it helps us learn more and us feel like it's interesting.
Right. And you can also contribute, by the way, like if you're a contributor to the story, you can also put in your own things and
Mhm.
add it into this. So that's a good thing.
Is that it? Everyone have any more questions? All right, with that being said, I'd like to thank you so much for coming
Thank
here
you.
presenting today. I do have a little gift for you today.
Okay, thank
And
you.
then I would like to take a picture with you.
Okay, take a picture, smiling, 1, 2, 3. Okay.
You want to be able to, and then right over here.
Thank you.
Also, do me a favor, take a picture also me with Dr. Shushant because we visited the lab.
Yeah.
Yeah, and visit the lab but we did.
Traffic was,
Tell me which one of you is taking pictures. Okay.
oh, it was insane, man. It was like trucks all over the place.
Okay.
And then with the express lane.
Yeah, but-
Medicaid express lane, so. then
Okay,
it's like-
thank you. Also thank the room and tell them that do we have anything in December?
Oh, no.
Presentation wise, no.
Okay, so happy Thanksgiving to everyone. Okay, to everyone.
All right, for those of you online, we'd like to wish you a happy Thanksgiving this Thursday. We do have for ITE students a Boca Control Center tour on November 30th from 10 to 11. If you are interested, you all have my email. I will type it in the chat, and then I would also like to thank you for coming and support ITE and Great Mobility Research Institute. Jasmine, could you type in an email to contact? If you have any questions, you can just contact this email, and we will be happy to get in contact with you for this. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.